Responsibility of the producer and does not necessarily reflect the views or policies of CATV2, Oshkosh Community Access Television, the City of Oshkosh, the Oshkosh Cable Television Advisory Commission, or Time Warner Cable.
Hi everyone, welcome to another edition of Eye on Oshkosh. I'm Cheryl Hentz along with my co-host Tony Palmieri. On this edition we're going to be talking about an issue that has some local business people rather upset, and it has to do with the road construction project that's being planned for upcoming years to expand Highway 41. According to the DOT, they're going to be expanding this highway from Wisconsin State 26 all the way to Breezewood Lane in Neenah. And one of the intersections that has local business people really fired up is how this will affect the interchange at US 41 and State Highway 21. To discuss that is Norm Mueller from Miller Chrysler Plymouth. Norm has been in that location for, I believe you said 48 years, right?
Right.
And this will impact you dramatically. So we thank you very much for being here to talk about this. And let me just say what the DOT says on their website as far as what the project is. The project will upgrade the existing 4-lane roadway to a 6-lane highway. They'll be upgrading 7 interchanges along that entire route, and one of those, of course, is Highway 21. They'll be lengthening on-ramps for future ramp meters. They'll be investigating locations for future intelligent transportation systems, which will provide traffic information to motorists and monitor ramp metering. They'll also be addressing access management needs and providing bicycle and pedestrian facilities. Now, what we're going to be discussing tonight specifically is the improvements at State Highway 21. They'll be reconstructing the existing interchange using a tight diamond configuration with improved turn lanes on 21 and at the ramp ends. They'll be reconstructing the interchange so that 21 passes over US 41. And for anyone who's familiar with that intersection, you'll know that currently 21 runs under. So this is going to change it so it runs over. They'll be widening 21 to 7 lanes through the interchange area. They'll be shifting US 41 lanes west to accommodate the new roadway location along and across Lake Butamore, and they'll be shifting Wisconsin 21 south to minimize property impacts and environmental impacts to the lake. Now, that sounds like a lot, and Norm is going to explain to us in layman's terms exactly what this means. Let me start by asking you, how long have these plans been in the works?
Well, the one issue we want to talk about, which is the closure of Egg Harbor Lane and the intersection. That's been off and on for 10 years. The reversal has probably showed up about 4 or 5 years ago.
Now, when you say reversal, you're talking there, Norm, about
the 6 laning of 41.
So instead of running north and south, it'll be running east and west, or what do you mean when you say reversal?
Well, by reversal, as you mentioned before, the state's intention is to drop 41 down and then raise 21 over 41. In other words, 9th Street goes over 41, Witzel 44, and they want to match that.
Okay. All right. So the longest that this has been going on is at least 10 years.
Correct.
Now, this past summer, I think we all know the DOT was doing something out there. What were they doing, and how does it relate to this overall project?
Well, what they did this year is called a kind of an interim fix. The greatest problem in the Highway 21-41 area is eastbound 21 traffic going northbound 41. And that's kind of a common sense issue since there's almost 10 miles, there's no crossing the water. From the, you know, at Amro, yes, you cross the river, but you get on there, you are looking at Lake Butamore and so forth and so on all the way down the corner. So there is no way to go north. There are obviously several roads that go south. So all the roads that have to go north have to come down into our corner and turn left and go north on 41. Well, that backed up and people complained and backed up. Although if we realistically look at all of this traffic thing, if we're really truthful, we don't deserve a dime. Just go to Milwaukee and Chicago sometime, and if you watch those traffic jams, and I'm talking about the ones in Wisconsin, not in Chicago, if you realistically looked at it on a needs basis, those poor folks need the money. Many times in the morning I'll go south to Chicago to the auction or something. As you're going around Milwaukee on 894 and you pass 94, which is the east-west going downtown route, and the minute you pass 94, it's nothing to see 3 lanes of solid cars stopped or barely crawling along for 3, 4, 5 miles. So people come up to this intersection here and they say, gee, I had to wait for the light twice. Well, the whole traffic world becomes gridlocked. Go to LA, go to Chicago, no matter where you go. We really have a fairly good working net system the way it is. Yes, there are some delays. But our big battle with the state has been what they did this year, fixed nothing and created more problems. Could we refer to the map now?
Yes, absolutely. You brought a map, so let's...
The intersection that was removed this year is this one here, which is Washburn and Egg Harbor Lane.
Okay.
It was removed to create this longer stacking lane, which allegedly, and I say allegedly, would help the turning thing, but it didn't help a thing. We have the pictures here. If you eventually can pan on them, it would help. Hasn't made one iota, because the left lane is still full and the 2 other lanes are empty. Then this traffic was that for us to go into town, we have to go around like this, except the town of Algoma did not accept Roberts Road. We can go through the lot here, come through, but then all traffic that's coming west and wants to go south is now jammed through this corner. And if you haven't had the thrill of your life lately, go through that corner. Because all the incoming traffic has to consistently keep moving. So therefore, the man that's going from here to here, he has no right of way. This guy going from here to here has no right of way. They all have to stop while the incoming traffic continues to flow. Versus here before, the load was divided in 2 and it was much better. What was really interesting, across the Memorial Day weekend, this was left open just like it is shown on this map here, where the median was through and nobody died in any accidents, and it really worked well. And of course, on Labor Day, you get about as good a traffic as ever happens throughout the year. You have a whole lot of traffic. So this is the thing that we're really talking about here, is we're talking about what they did this year, for which they spent $1,150,000 that we can track. This last redrawing of this was awarded to Strand Engineering for $77,000. Only the final bill turns out to be $108,000 or $9,000. And when we called up and asked them what that contract was for, their first question was, who wants to know? Gee, it's public money, shouldn't we all know? So, so what you wind up with is they drove Mrs. Roberts out of her house. The Northwestern carried a very good story about that. And they cut my property in 2 back here. And we still have never settled that, because I sent the checks back to them and we're into litigation over that issue. They spent $1,150,000 that we can track and made it worse, because now they really have a dangerous intersection. In fact, one of the city's finest said to me one day, the first day it's really icy, we'll have to keep a patrol car right handy. And when in fact this intersection over here was one of the safest in the city, averaged less than 3 accidents per year. If you go down to 9th and Keller, 9th and Washburn, those are up in the teens, 12, 13, 14. One of them, I think, as high as 17 accidents per year. We didn't have any. Why was this done? Well, that's the mystery that nobody can tell us, because they have not fixed the problem. I hired Strand Engineering to redraw this whole thing by a guy who worked for the DOT, so he used their criteria. And there is no reason that you can't have 2 lanes left going north underneath the overpass and time them on like they do in the big cities like Milwaukee. It's very, very common. If you can have 2 lanes come down the ramp road, turn left and come west, I'm sure they can turn left and go north. I don't think the magnetic compass will pull them off the course.
Let me ask you this, Norm. I mean, obviously, I mean, your position is this doesn't make sense, and their plans are just kind of a lot of hooey. Other than that, and if that's true, then it's kind of a waste of taxpayer dollars. Other than that, what has the businessmen out there so upset? What kind of impact is this going to have on your businesses as these plans unfold? And I should say that the DOT sent me an email this morning, and they do want to appear on a future show. We will be granting them that opportunity. They have indicated that they're going to start purchasing property in 2006. Those property purchases will continue until 2010, but the project is, the construction project itself is set to start construction in 2009. So, you know, it's been 10 years that you've been kind of fighting this a little bit. Another probably 3-4 years before they start construction. Are they looking at buying your property? What's got you guys all upset?
No, but let's finish where we're at here first. We had a meeting with all 6 area elected representatives, the people who get elected by office. Okay. Senators Mike Ellis, Ressler, and Luther Olson. Representatives Carol Owens, Jerry McCormick, and Greg Underman. All asked the DOT and signed off, do this, which costs, just to hook those 2 roads together, costs about $110,000.
Okay.
That's all. And they said, do that and study it for 2 years. In the litigation, we found out that they have really never studied this, no litigation whatsoever. They have told people that there is a ground well of support. But we'll go back to that in a second. There never has been a ground well of support for this issue. What they really wanted to do is just hook this up. And the real horror story in this whole thing, if you remember in the summer of 2004, that's last year, okay? They were doing Witzel, right? So it was closed. So tons of that traffic came down to 21. In the process of coming to 21, because this road wasn't built, they had to go out here, come back in here, and go down in there. The safety and the convenience of the public, I remember spending an hour with Will Dorsey on the phone when Will Dorsey was the district director at that time. And I said, Will, at least why don't you hook the road together? It's only that little money. And his final screaming remark to me was, I will not hook that road together until I can close your corner. What does one issue have to do with the other? It never did.
So it sounds like the DOT is not listening, is what it sounds like.
Exactly true.
So they already have, they have a plan, they've constructed a plan, and it sounds like no matter what the politicians even and the business owners say, they don't care.
No, they don't want a part of it. And it's very interesting because in our litigation, we wasted a lot of time, and unfortunately we arrived in court when it was too late. You go to traffic engineering firms, even STS, whom I hired to do this other drawing, which shows technically you can build 4 lanes underneath the overpass and have 2 of them turn on. But where's this all chump change? This is hundreds of millions. This is just peanuts. Very, very small dollars to increase the safety of the public. And they attacked all of that. I always said it because it has that NIH stamp, which says not invented here, so therefore it's no good. But if they don't want to put 3 lanes underneath the middle, they can make the center lane an option, which they do a lot of. Center lane could turn left or could go straight in. But the problem could have been solved very easily. On the other side of the overpass.
Forget about the map, Norm. We're not going back to it now.
All right.
Just talk about it. Okay.
The other side of the overpass, they own the west quarter or third of Big Boy's parking lot.
Okay.
They can build an on-ramp there you can't believe. And if you go anywhere in Milwaukee, including now when you come out of the airport, everything is timed on. Why do they do that? Because it uses the ramp full time. Mm-hmm. Light changes, they all run around at once, they all got to get on at once. When you have the timing lights, they're all feeding in. I think I would be remiss if we didn't go back to where their support is or is not for this. The town of Algoma voted not to accept the maintenance of Roberts Road.
Why?
Because the town of Algoma doesn't want the intersection closed. They know that other dangerous intersection, and our intersection is 75 to 100% in the town of Algoma. Mm-hmm. We collected 5,000 petitions of the people who use that road. Said, in fact, they also in the petition say don't reverse the overpass. But the biggest issue that they addressed was don't close the intersection. Let both of them open so that it creates more freer flow. We have a new organization called West Algoma Biltmore Bridge Association. They took a position against it. Of course, they said the town board. The sheriff was very adamant against doing this. Former county exec Jane Van High was against doing what happened. And of course, the 6 area legislators said, signed off, said, take 2 years and see what happens. So they, for some odd reason, in this situation, have truly never listened to us.
I'm still trying to, I guess, grasp why the businessmen are upset. Okay, you've got legislators who are not in favor of this, but they're not spending any of their own money. You business folks are spending some of your dollars to fight this. And I guess, you know, my question and the question that I'm sure viewers have is why?
Well, obviously, if it was an improvement, I'd be the first guy to to do things, okay? Mm-hmm. For instance, on my side, the 3rd lane is paved. I paid for that. Mm-hmm. The traffic lights that are in the Washburn Egg Harbor corner were paid for. Quick Trip, town of myself, and the township of Algoma. Mm-hmm. We paid for them. They fought us on that. They have fought every single thing we've ever happened. And the final blow was the traffic lights that are now at Old Amro Road and the Westtown Washburn connection, mm-hmm. which is in front of Shell McDonald and Reset Ford. Mm-hmm. Those lights were paid for by Gary Lurch from Service Oil. Mm. Myself, town of Algoma, city of Oshkosh, and some money from Shell McDonald. They wouldn't put the lights in there. Yet if you go here north on what's now, it's 76, old 45 Jackson Drive, in front of Bergstrom's, those lights were paid for by the state. Amazing.
Now you said they sent you, you said they sent you some checks?
Yes, they condemned my property.
All right, they condemned your property, and they sent you, how did they arrive at the amount that they sent you?
They had it appraised.
They had it appraised, okay. And then you sent it back?
Correct.
All right. Why? Because you disagreed with what they were doing?
Right, I told them they could give me $2 million. I don't want the money. I want my property. I want them to leave the roadway the way it is and improve on it how they could without doing all this other money.
How much of your property, Norm, did they condemn?
I don't even know the exact square foot. They paid me reasonably handsome for the property, but the overall effect is devastating. Mm-hmm. It's very damaging. Right in and right out businesses don't always succeed.
Sure.
I could show you a car dealer in Green Bay that used to be right in, right out. And after about 2 families' monies went through, today it's not a car dealer, it's a parking lot, whatever it is.
But what happens when you send the money back?
Well,
Is that like a declaration of war from you?
No.
What is that? Do they end up doing what they want to do anyway?
they do, well, yeah, they do that by the condemnation process.
By the condemnation process.
We unfortunately, and they had the better timing than we did,
Yeah.
because by the time we got our expert witnesses to find out that they had, in fact, not done
Okay.
what would be considered appropriate traffic data and so forth. So, and this thing has a lot farther history than that. What's the favorite Northeast, Southeast Regional Planning Center? What's it called?
Northeast Wisconsin Regional Planning,
I'm not sure.
something or other.
Whatever, they formed a committee. It consisted of people from Oshkosh, town of Algoma, people from different involved businesses around. And we voted unanimously to leave that intersection open until such time as the traffic count got to about 50,000 a day. And they disregarded that. They did come along and they said, well, let's see, City of Oshkosh approved it. Well, the fact of the matter is, common council's never voted on it. I've checked people on the council, you know, and I do watch the council on here and whatever. It was somebody within the, you know, the obviously in the engineering department, and you know,
The Common Council never had a vote on this.
never voted on the issue of closing the corridor.
Did you find out that there was somebody in City Hall who did say yes?
Well, it goes to the highway engineering connections, okay?
But they have the authority to say yes on something like that?
Well, they use their apparently discretion. The real issue is, why would the City of Oshkosh vote on it anyway? The intersection is not in the City of Oshkosh.
Town of Algoma.
Town-
Right. So it's like town of Algoma saying, no, I think we should close Wisconsin Avenue at Iowa Street because it's bad.
Yeah.
You know how far that'd go.
Right, exactly. I don't understand how the town of Algoma, though, can say no, and yet this project continues. So the DOT can simply, they can ignore the will of a governing body of a town.
Thank you.
They can do that. They can legally do that. Apparently.
Well, they did sue other things that were questionable, but we're not going there. Here's the issue. If they build something, they don't maintain local roads, they have to get the governing body to accept the road.
All right.
And the town has refused to accept the road, so.
Well, that seems like a rather silly regulation or mandate when they don't seem to care. I mean, here they didn't get anything from the town of Algoma in the way of approval, and yet they're going forward with it anyway.
Actually, that went through the town of Algoma about 7 times. They did win twice, but they lost 5 times.
Okay.
And the final time, and I never like to leave anything untold in the story,
Sure.
the final time they said no. And so it's been one of those, is it an ego thing? We don't know. Nobody understands it. People, now that it's happened, look at me and say, Sheener, boy, did they screw that up out there. I said, no kidding. And if you think that's bad, you know, depending upon our timing here, sooner or later we get into talking about this overpass reversal. And if you took a survey of the average Oshkosh citizen and said, first of all, you think it's a good idea to spend about $20 million more than you need to, they probably wouldn't give you a very good vote. And secondly, they don't know. DOT holds meetings today which are called, you know, public access informational. The real problem is it's a bunch of maps on the wall which the average person looks at but don't really understand.
Nope.
Doesn't have a clue. Versus a really good public hearing in which each individual citizen gets up and testifies, and you listen, and you learn something, and your testimony is all recorded, you know?
Yeah.
I think they probably used our 5,000 petitions to start the fireplace or something, because they have meant nothing to them.
They said, all right, they had 3 public information meetings.
Correct.
For the 41 6-lane expansion. The first meeting was held in 2000, and the remaining 2 were held in 2001. Were you at those meetings?
I've been to all of them.
And so at these meetings, they show you a lot of maps,
Oh, yes.
a lot of technical jargon. The average person on the street has no idea what they're talking about.
Tony, it would be very interesting to conduct a survey of about 100 people, and you'd have to ask the question correctly. People don't have a clue. They say they're going to what?
Well, people start to understand, Norm, when we start to get stories like that lady that you were talking about in the Northwestern story. What was her name?
Roberts.
All right, now what,
Arlene Roberts.
All right, now what happened to her?
Well, she never wanted to sell. She never wanted.
She had that house her entire life, right? Or most of
Her
her life?
husband built that. He was since dead. And they had 2 sons, one who lives out in Massachusetts, and the other son was kind of a local known musician, nice guy, and he just dropped dead about 50, you know.
Yeah.
She like an 80. No, she maybe Arlene live another 5, 10 years. Why not let her live there? We've solved nothing throwing her out.
But she fought them for a while, right?
Yep.
And then, but they won.
Oh yeah. Well, I fought them. They won.
Right. But then didn't it turn out that they didn't really need her property?
But the town never accepted the road. No.
Right.
In fact, the contractor built the road, you know, under his contract, but the town has never accepted the road. The road isn't the real issue. The real issue is the safety of having the intersection closed now, so that for us to go into town, we have to go into the other corner because you can't do a U-turn, so you got to figure out how to get on Old Armour Road and then go on the corner, turn left, and go into the city. And quite frankly, the people coming down Old Armour Road, going on to 21 in the morning, going into the city, now have to stop, where before they had a nice sweeping curve and they didn't have to stop. And things worked well the way they were. We just blew $1,150,000 and it don't work well. What can we do? Or what do we want them to do? I want them to keep their money. They're eventually going to obviously have to pay me. They can sell Arlene Roberts' house on a public auction, the lot, you know, which is probably 30 grand. So they got a couple $100 grand. It might cost them between 50 and 100 to put the intersection back in. They still have the stoplights that they took from there, which incidentally, they never paid us back our money. They took them and kept them.
Well, I guess I'm confused by even just the timeline of this. I mean, their own email says that real estate purchases will begin in 2006. Now, when did you get a check? Or is your check, the condemnation of a portion of your property, is that not part of this specific project that they're talking about here?
That's issue 1, which we were talking about here before, which is closing the Washburn Egg Harbor intersection.
So that's sort of the prelude to this.
Yeah, and that may not even be used then, to be honest with you.
Okay.
The final design, if they are allowed to do the reversal, I mean, we have no money. If you talk to all the state legislatures, there is no money. Why would we intend to waste all this money when, in fact, we can make this thing work? I like to point to Milwaukee County because I think I learned stuff going there. You're familiar with 894 in Silver Spring?
Yes,
Okay.
I am.
Number of years ago, it was 2-lane, and now it's 3-lane, right?
Yeah.
So how'd they get the 3rd lane on there? They just added it under traffic. They can do the same thing in those 2 overpasses we have in the whole bridge. They can add a 3rd lane under traffic.
Yeah.
So
Pardon me,
No, go
did
ahead.
they shut the intersection down and reverse it because they wanted the local? I mean, these things are insane. I one time talked to a company in Milwaukee. It was an engineering company for traffic, you know. In fact, I have a whole page in here that says muzzled because I have talked to several of them who wanted to help us testify. You know what? Not a one of them will.
Why?
Because they won't get any more DOT contracts.
Yeah, see, the system's corrupt.
This plan here, reversing it, was not drawn by the DOT. It was hired by HN2TB or something out of Milwaukee.
Yeah.
They don't do
But see,
this.
Norm, when you say that there's no money, see, the problem is the DOT does have money. I mean, they've had this automatic gas tax every year. It's this big pot of money for the DOT. Road builders, as you know, are one of the biggest lobbyists down there in Madison.
No.
Yeah, they get everything they want. So these guys in the DOT, we saw this with, I know you supported the widening of Jackson Street. You probably did too. I didn't.
I wasn't educated to
All
have
right,
an
but
opinion.
they've got all kinds of money, and they basically go looking for projects around the state. Then they make up numbers, right? They, you know, these imaginary traffic counts, and of course, apparently from what you're describing, there's no accountability. They can waste money left and right. Who do they answer to? You got town board saying no. You got 6 elected officials saying no, and they're still plowing through.
They did it anyway.
Literally.
It's like we didn't exist. What I'm talking about, and I miss it, it's East Central we're talking about. In fact, it was very interesting because the DOT had East Central by the nose and led them around.
That's right.
And we would go to meetings, and the guy from East Central would get up and say, "We support this." We say, "Wait a minute, what happened to this committee we had here in Oshkosh that said, do not do this?"
Yeah.
And then we have a very, very smart gentleman who was the president of our West Algoma Association called Gary Lurch. And he is a real computer guru, okay? And this gal is proceeding, she's one of the East Central people at this meeting, proceeding to tell us about all the accidents that are happening in the Washburn-Egg Harbor intersection.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all going, Gary goes back and digs it out. She took the accidents from the corner and blended them in there. Absolutely not true. But you find that even gentlemen who are, pretty smart gentlemen, the DOT has the purse strings.
Yeah, they sure do.
And, it's like saying to Dave Ponte, well, Dave, you got this little street you'd like a little help with, but we need your support on this issue. Suddenly he's got help. Or they say to John Ozzie from the county, we could probably help you out with why, or whatever. It's really a system that probably needs more balance. And, I have had some media folks want me to attack them. I don't attack them. We're simply asking them, hey guys, you can do better.
Because you told us before the taping, you have had some positive experience with DOT.
Absolutely. And I have one guy who's, he's now retired in the 83, 82, 83, 84 era when they 6-laned the bypass around there. Good Lord, him and I are the best of friends to this day. We did $350,000 worth of buy-sell business sitting at the table like this. No lawyers, no kind of, okay, that's fair. Yep, that's fair. I mean, it really, Frank Buzalaki, I know Frank Buzalaki personally these days.
That's the DOT secretary.
Right. But
have you talked to him personally about this?
Oh, many times.
And what's his take?
Well, he can't control Green Bay. Green Bay is known as one of the more powerful districts in the state, and the real issue is they never have been able to explain to us why they had to close their corner. Whether it was Dick Naslund, who owns, Dick owns the Countryside Restaurant behind there. There isn't a person that's involved with this that can say a good thing about it. So why would you continue to jam it down our throats? And we've all said, this is bad, this is bad. And here we are, here we are talking about it, and it happened. I mean, honest to God, they have spent, Tony, a minimum of $250,000 fighting this.
But you think Buzalaki is leveling with you? He can't control an office of the agency that he controls? I don't buy that.
Sir, I will defend Frank. I tend to think Frank wouldn't lie to me. I just plain and simple.
What about the secretary before him? Did you know the secretary before him?
No.
I can't remember who that was,
No,
but it was the same deal.
Well, no, it would be on the R side of the aisle. We're on the D side of the aisle.
Okay, I got you. The old R&D routine. You said, I'm going to ask him about the litigation.
Sure.
You said you're in litigation.
Well, our litigation technically ended, but obviously it's still not over because they haven't even paid my poor neighbor. I was entitled to another appraisal, which so I had my neighbor. They never paid the poor man. So
the litigation's going on then.
Well, it's going to have to because the poor guy's got to get paid. How can you not pay the guy? And but we really got to get back to some of this Milwaukee issue, okay?
Milwaukee issue.
Okay, because Milwaukee.
The way they've done things in Milwaukee.
Right, correctly. Now, we think we have a lot of traffic. Florida has 60,000 cars a day. See, I buy the state traffic books every year, and I'm going through and how many cars are in this street, how many cars are in that street, and all this stuff. The interesting thing with the DOT fighting us on putting 2 lanes going through the corner, because, you know, it just could happen that maybe this doesn't happen for 10, 20 years.
Sure.
There's no guarantees that this is going to happen next year. Absolutely zero. But give me the pitch that the ramp isn't long enough. So I have repeatedly tried to find out the lengths of the ramps on 84th Street, okay? 84th and 68th and all those streets in Milwaukee that do ramp on to 94 east or west. First of all, you got to think about the traffic count. We have 60,000. Do you have a clue what that traffic count is? It's 160,000.
Okay.
100. Literally 3 times as much.
Sure.
So if they are able to bring people up 2 at a time and then feed them into 160,000, certainly here in Deer Oshkosh, we ought to be able to do it in 60,000. Yeah, that ramp could even be a little short, so to build another small structure and lengthen that ramp road wouldn't hurt a thing, and it would make it possible. Because down the road, you know, there's no guarantees by anybody that will tell you, oh, 8, 9, 10 years this is going to happen. I don't see it happening that fast. You know, there are monies, I hear stories about we take money out of the transportation budget, put it in the regular budget, because they do have a need for it. I mean, that's fine. But there is so much that you got to get back to when you talk about this reversal. I will tell you this, and I hope people watching this can understand this. If they are allowed to reverse this overpass and allowed to build a new bridge instead of fixing the bridge that is there, okay, the present northbound lanes will be left in. The new northbound lanes will be the present southbound lanes, and then the present southbound will become the new, and then there will be new southbound lanes built, filling in at least 12 acres of the lake. How do you fill in the lakes anymore? Since when does that happen? And I mean, I haven't seen the tree huggers, and I use that term affectionately, come racing up there, because most of them don't know it.
No. I mean, I have very little idea what's going on out there. You say this has been going on for 10 years, right? This has been in the works for 10 years.
this new 6-lane thing is only 4 or 5 years old.
Only 4 or 5 years, okay.
All right, and the real issue is there, and of course they did get from friends from the, I remember this one gentleman getting up and says, yeah, I like hiking trails. To leave a multi-million-dollar bridge across Butamore, what happens when the concrete starts chipping? Are we going to spend another $1 million on a nature trail there? No. And it dead ends in front of Annie's or Big Boy or whatever the restaurant there. I mean, it's bizarre.
Well, and speaking of Annie's, which used to be Big Boy years and years ago, I mean, out there you've got Annie's, which has been vacant for at least a couple of years. You've got Two Brothers Restaurant, which is the restaurant
across the street,
across the street, and next to Howard Johnson's.
Correct.
Then you've got Howard Johnson's. That's just on the east side of 41. On the west side is your place. There's Kruger Auto Sales, and those are just a couple over there. What is going to happen to some of those businesses on the east side of the highway? Are those going to be gobbled up by this project?
You're talking there, the south side and north side.
The east side of 41. Annie's?
Oh, okay.
Two Brothers?
Well, obviously they'll be crippled. I mean, I feel it's crippling to us. There's a young man out there got the better part of $1 million in that quick oil change place. I mean, you know, you're looking up the mud up the hill and say, well, there they are up there. There the cars are up there. You know, how do they get you? And blowing all that money where you don't have to. There is not a lot of significant development. They can buy 10, 20 feet on each side, get all the lanes they need to create the east-west route. I think 21 in front of my garage is 110 or 20 feet wide. Well, at 12 foot of lanes, that room for 10 lanes. Last time I went to college.
Well, and Two Brothers Restaurant alone, I mean, they already have, I think, a significant parking problem there. I mean, at certain times of the day, in the morning for coffee, at lunchtime, even a lot of times at dinner time, they're scrambling to find places to park.
Well, they would rather stay there, and there's a lot of room behind that restaurant, though. You
Yeah,
can park
there's
another
plenty
100
there.
cars
Yeah.
behind there.
Well,
I
and
used
you
to plow snow there,
You
so
can
I'm
overflow
familiar
into
with
the
it.
into the parking
Hotel,
lot for the
right.
hotel also.
Right.
But you know, people don't want to walk that
No,
far,
no.
especially in winter weather.
Well, on the other side of the overpass, the city's plan is, and the reason I'm reasonably familiar with that is because between Annie's and Robbins, there are 8 lots in there, 6 of the 8 I own, okay? And the plan is to put I don't know where it's ever going because it's never really happened here, but the plan was to run a service road approximately next to the oil change place to the east of it and run that back and bring down Keller Street. Instead of where it is in front of Robbins now, it would come down there, and then it would go across, and then all of us that had driveways on 21 would lose them, and we'd be serviced with a year-round service road. Well, you know what? This is the time to do it before somebody spends zillions of dollars building fantastic buildings. Our buildings were all built facing 21, based upon the roadway that was there. And incidentally, that service road that runs into me, that is the 3rd location for that road since I've been there.
Really? All right.
Yes. In fact, I got all the neighbors, of which there were not very many, but we all got together, we all agreed we'd accept one road in the middle. I hate to point back to the map, but if you see that purple road on there, that was the city's 1980 plan, hired by HNTB, which is a huge engineering firm, which ran that road behind Naslin's restaurant and joined up down with the rest of Washburn, and that was to be the intersection. It all works well. In fact, it still works well.
Well, here's what I don't understand. The DOT is claiming that this project is needed for economic development, but it sounds like from what you're describing, it's going to harm the existing economic activity that we have.
Well, I am not much of a guy for trashing buildings.
Yeah.
Costs a lot of money to build them. Just going over on the Howard Johnson side, that's a 100-some unit motel.
Sure.
How much a unit does a motel cost these days?
Yeah.
50, 60,000 a unit. Just start putting the zeros behind that. The restaurants and a while back I had somebody do some appraisals, just putting together the numbers for all of this. Landfilling that kind of a project costs money. If you look at my neighbor, Dave Kuntz across the street, Krieger Auto, that was the gas station I originally started there. I mean, they're making overtures to buy him, but they're good, costs money. The Quick Trip, and of course, those people who work there are all out of jobs. Probably in my building across the street from Quick Trip, there were which is Westgate. Last count, I think there were 70-some people working in that building. From the bank to the stockbroker to ThedaCare to all the rest of the tenants. Well, sure, people go buy something somewhere else. That's true, but do those people have a job somewhere else? Right. Is it really necessary? That's the whole issue. I mean, what's to be improved? But one other area, boy, I'm glad I thought of this because we haven't got to this. I'd kind of like to compare us to Appleton.
All right.
Okay, let's talk about Appleton and all they've done there. Okay.
All right.
And obviously, we were always the stepsister to Appleton, no matter what you say.
Right.
Someday I could do a program with you on that would
Right.
we get into some other areas too. But let's just talk about College Avenue, okay?
Yeah.
And they rebuilt 41 up there, how many years ago? I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. Okay? But if you notice, they didn't reverse the overpass at College Avenue. And they didn't close College Avenue for 2 years.
No, they didn't.
Darn. What are we, second-class citizens down here? I mean, we have got to get somebody in this city off of the dime on this deal about we have to accept that, you know, and we have to stop worrying. We have to stop worrying about where the property is. You know, people say, well, we went to Appleton to the Fox River Mall. You went to the town of Grand Chute to the Fox River Mall. Yeah. It's not in the city of Appleton. In fact, everything west of the overpass next to Bergstrom on College Avenue, coming all the way out, is all in the town of Grand Chute. But boy, they sure get along well, and they sure do get our money, don't they?
And those things were done without TIF dollars, I'll add once again.
They get lots of it.
I can't speak intelligently to that, so no, I know nothing about TIF.
No, so here's the thing. If our state lawmakers are against it, it doesn't sound like local lawmakers are really for this. Business people aren't for it. Citizens, the ordinary citizen, doesn't really understand it.
Doesn't have a clue.
Because of the way these public meetings are held, you said. So why do you think the DOT is just going to continue marching forward to the beat of their own drums? I mean, if it's going to cost more money than is needed, if it's not going to create any additional safety nets, in fact, maybe cause more problems, why? Why do you think it is?
I wish I had that answer, to be honest with you. And I hope that, you know, and sometimes, to be honest with you, I've kind of been known as the guy, well, maybe I'm a little goofy out there hollering about this, but if it was a good deal, I'd be the first guy to say, hell yeah.
But you know what happens, Norm? The average person falls for the DOT propaganda because the average person drives out there, they get caught in a little traffic jam, which is not even close to what you described in Milwaukee, then they start hearing about the DOT wants to fix this up. So the average person, you know, if we're not careful, they end up supporting these projects because all they hear is, new road construction.
Well, they think it's going to be better, but
Exactly.
the fact it isn't.
It's not going to be
You
better.
got all the pictures to show them. It's not better.
How does the, you know, there's a proposal possibly for a Lowe's home improvement store. Does that play into this at all?
Well, it could next year, and the city has, I try not to poke my nose in other people's things. It's truly on the other side of the road. Yeah, the city's going to spend $5 million, knock Reset Ford out. You got 50 people, 60 people working there. They'll have to find a new place and run a road through there. I sure hope they have a contract signed by Lowe's that says, yeah, we're going to do this if you do that. Because it wasn't all that long ago. I think there was an outfit called Bell Machine on Jackson Street that had a nice building. And I don't know how many employees they had, but the city bought them.
Yeah.
And instead of saying, well, look, here's your new building. You're going from here to there, and the jobs are still here. The last I understand, they ran out of town, true or not.
Yeah.
But it's not because of Lowe's that the DOT is
No,
pushing
there's
this.
zero there, and so
Okay, all right.
I mean, obviously, if it happens across the street from me, it's good. I don't know if you remember when we almost had the Fox River Mall across the street.
Yeah.
And in our infinite wisdom, this community did not embrace them. There were very venomous meetings about how bad this was going to be for Oshkosh, and it was going to put the Park Plaza out of business.
Well, that was the thing. The Park Plaza folks did not want it.
Sure.
In retrospect, if they'd have taken it, they might still be there because people would be a shopping center here. Appleton is, I said at that time, we made a 50-year mistake.
Yeah.
It may be a 100-year mistake.
Well, it's very common, Norm, isn't it, that often people in business don't understand business. Sometimes they're afraid of competition, when in reality, like you suggest, if you get people in the neighborhood,
maybe they like you.
Maybe, right, they'll come across the street to where you are. If you try and keep them out, as we've seen, people would go drive the 20 miles and not spend money in your community. Yeah, I think you're right. That was a bad move.
Norm, when things like this happen, and, okay, say this goes through. It sounds like it's going to. And so they shut down Highway 21 for a while. Obviously, that impacts your business while the construction's going on. Do they reimburse you at all for any type of loss of income?
No.
Or how? I mean, so you're just basically out that money and you have to find a way to sort of wrangle customers in?
Well, you have to kind of really give the other side a little credit too. I mean, highways make people too. They break them and they make them. So you can't say, well, make things good for me now, so you got to pay me for it. No, that's not the issue. But the issue is we're spending tax dollars here. We can do it easier, cheaper, and smarter without hurting people. I mean, what is the sense of tearing down Howard Johnson's? It's a concrete building. It should last for 100 years, 200, hundreds of years, you know?
How long will the road be closed while they're, you know, how long will 21 be closed as they do that particular interchange?
They say a year, which probably and truthfully means 2 years because, well, as I kind of explained it to the both of you before we started the program, that's not an instant situation. And my best guess would be it'd be about 2 years. Even if it's a year, can you imagine the 25,000 cars that use that roadway per day now would have to be forced on either to Witzel or 9th, which are full already. And then the alternate thing that most people don't think about is that there are, in fact, it's amazing elected officials, and I would ask you, do you know what happens when the Butamore Bridge closes?
Oh.
I don't have a clue. You can ask a lot of people. Nobody has a clue. And the Butamore Bridge closes many times a year, from bad accidents to bad weather. And having been on that corner 48 years, I've seen it all, you know.
Well, doesn't the traffic get rerouted through the city then?
Yes, and it comes out Highway 21 to go back onto 41. So that's the southbound. Okay, or if it's northbound lanes are closed, then they go down 21 and back out 110.
But if 21's closed,
You can't do that.
right.
Right. Just, Norm, you said you sent those checks back.
Yeah.
Is there any chance you could like donate them to pay the garbage fee here? That might be how much a pot of money you didn't think about.
I can't speak intelligently to that either.
All right. Actually, but on a serious note, it seems to me like the DOT's assumption in this project is that people are going to be driving as much as they have been driving the last 20, 30 years and more. Don't you think with energy prices, which are not going to go down anytime soon, people are obviously still going to be buying cars. Your business is going to be around for a long time. But don't you think that maybe we're reaching the point where we're not going to need 6-lane highways? That in fact people are going to drive less, they're going to be looking to stay local because quite frankly, they can't afford it.
Well, mass transit is obviously something that really is. I was just in San Francisco, and I could see that place obviously needs mass transit. Do we in Oshkosh need it? No. We have little buses running around the city here and there. I can't envision traffic going backwards, Tony. I can only envision.
You can't, huh?
No, I can envision it creeping up, but maybe not at the rate that it has. It's all hooked to population. You know, what our country is, what now, 280, 290, approaching 300 million, right?
Yeah.
So, do I see people? No, they have more cars. People don't have 1 and 2 cars, they have 3 cars.
Yeah. I mean, you think that's going to continue into the near future, even with the gas prices going out of
reasonably so, yes.
Yeah.
I don't see it stopping. Is there a need for it? And I guess, you know, one of the great things of saying, you know, and I talked about Appleton before, and we're about done here fairly soon, but they are in their, basically, the 3rd location of 41 up there in some places. I don't know if you're aware of that or not. It moved and it moved and it moved. Okay. But this College Avenue thing, College Avenue has more traffic than Highway 21. Do they have problems? Yes, they really have problems up there, but it's how it is, you know, and we have to sometimes recognize that, gee, if you're leaving Menards and it's crowded, it's how it is. Go to the Fox River Mall about 4 or 5 o'clock any day from now till Christmas, and when you go down the down ramp to College Avenue and you want to go west, you're going to wait a while.
Yeah.
You are going to.
Yeah.
And it's how it is. And gee, if you don't like it, don't go there, you know. there was huge problems with traffic on 9th and 41 and 9th and Keller years back. And the city kept building and addressed them and made 2 left turn lanes in there. Gee, we don't have a problem there anymore. You have 2 left turn lanes coming out of there. We can do the same damn thing in our corner. One of the things they used to attack us closing our corner for years was our service road, our Egg Harbor Lane was too close to the ramp road. So I was so mad one Sunday morning about 6 o'clock in the morning, I went to Appleton and I measured every ramp road to the nearest one. And guess what? Ours is 100 feet longer than Mall Road. Mall Road is the road off of College that takes you into the mall. We're 100 feet farther away from the ramp road than they are. You go down, we're like 650, they're 550. You go down to 9th Street, which they just rebuilt, they're 330. You go on they've now changed it. On the newest one, before the big overpass, they built that up at Nina, it's like 250 feet. I mean, all the rhetoric that they've ever went after us, if you go check it out, it don't quite come out. You know, like we talked about before about reversing overpasses.
Yeah.
When I went to Madison in June last year, and 151 was getting done, I said, well, 26 is the local road, it must go over 151. Gee, it didn't.
Norm, we only got a minute and a half left here.
What?
What would you like the average person to do at this point? The average person watching this program who now knows what's going to happen, what do you want them to do?
Well, the issue of our intersection is a battle that they may or may not want to get into. The real issue is the reversal of the overpass, and that I think they don't want their pocket picked. I think they want something that's got to be a lot better. We can save that money. They can rebuild those bridges. And you have to go to the other assumption, assuming you don't have the money to do it. Then what are you going to do?
All right. So they should talk to Ressler, Underheim, and these people?
All of them. They should talk right starting with the city here.
Talk to the city.
The city has endorsed the reversal, and I don't think they should.
Okay.
And just very quickly, you said that that a portion of the Lake Butamore is going to be filled in. Has the DNR weighed in on this yet?
Allegedly. There is a huge study on that, but they have kind of bent the rules. When it comes between the two agencies, there are no firm rules.
Okay.
And finally, did you vote for Russ Darrow?
No.
Okay. You wouldn't buy a used car from Russ Darrow, huh?
No, and I know Russ, and he's a friend of mine, but I had already committed to other people.
Okay, that's fine. Wonder if you guys stick together or not.
All right. Well, I think that we've done a good job here of getting some information out there to folks. And, if you have questions, contact Norm. He'll be happy to fill you in on some of this stuff and, contact your legislators as well. So, Norm, thanks so much for being here, and good luck with the project.
Thank you for having me on. This has been very enjoyable.
Thank you.
And as always, thanks to Tony and thanks to you for letting us in your home for the last hour. We'll see you next time. Until then, take good care and keep your eye on us. We've got our eye on Oshkosh. Thank you.